Hi guys, this is gsnl.com and I'm here with a review of the Realme 7 Pro. It's a high mid-range phone with fast charging and also with a Snapdragon 720 GPU, which you've seen before on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. It's got a quad camera at the back, which is actually not bad at all, and it comes with stereo speakers and a bright AMOLED screen. Now the price should be below $300 in most countries, which is appealing in itself. It was launched in the fall of 2020 and it comes in colors like mirror blue or mirror silver with this nifty stripe at the back side. So let's get to it. Now, first of all, you probably noticed that there's a case in the box. You saw that in the unboxing. The device has a water repellent coating. It draws here some fingerprints and grease. It's made of plastic at the back and also plastic for the frame, but it's pretty light and slim at 8.7 millimeters and 182 grams. There's a stripe here which reminds me of the Oppo Reno 4 Lite, which had a similar approach. And I would say it's a pretty comfy design. It's quite grippy. The buttons respond well to the touch. We have the power button here and the volume buttons on the other side. I mean, it's decently built, but I'm not very sure it can withstand a strong bending. The bezels are, I would say, pretty big, especially if you look at the chin that we've got here. Okay, so that's basically it design-wise. It's comfy to hold and built out of plastic. Not very sure how resilient it actually is when it comes to stronger impacts. Now, as far as the screen is concerned, you can probably already tell it's a quality panel, 6.4-inch Super AMOLED Full HD Plus, and also it has a small punch hole here for the selfie camera. And well, that's pretty much it. There's Gorilla Glass 3 Plus protection and there's no high refresh rate, so you have to do with 60 Hz. Now let's see a video playback here, a video playback sample. Now this is what the screen delivers. Very vivid colors, excellent brightness. It's a very crisp and sharp panel with wide view angles. And it can definitely handle the sun, so contrast is spot on. Of course, we have those deep blacks we always crave for when it comes to the AMOLED panel. The pixel arrangement is of the pentile matrix variety, and now we go further and see what the lux meter showed us. This is the level of brightness. We achieved 644 lux units for the Realme 7 Pro, which is actually not bad, 15th place. And it's above the Oppo Reno 4 Lite, above the Vivo Y70, Galaxy A71, and the Xiaomi Mi 10 Lite 5G. At the same time, it's below the Oppo Reno 4 Pro 5G and the Oppo Reno 3 Pro 5G. Of course, you can also do some tweaks for the screen if you want to get, well, extras out of it or change the experience a bit. We got your brightness here, auto brightness, dark mode, eye comfort, always on display features, and the screen color mode can be set to brilliant, vivid or gentle. The factory setting is vivid and I'm quite fine with it. There is the OISC vision effect, which is supposed to give you some sort of boost, as you can see here, for your video watching, and there's font size, display size, and that's pretty much it. Very happy with the screen power here, and now we're off to the CPU department. In spite of what it says here, we got a Snapdragon 720G 8nm CPU inside, so let's go to the other app, maybe it's more relevant. So yes, 720G indeed, octa-core 2.3 GHz, and the same one seen on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. Now let's see what quantity of RAM we have here. So go to the system and we have here 8 gigs of RAM, which is actually not bad, and also 128 gigabytes of storage, UFS 2.1, and a dedicated microSD card slot. Keep in mind it's dedicated, it doesn't share the same slot with the nano SIM, one of the nano SIMs. The device is a stranger to lag. It can definitely run games pretty fine. If you've seen the Redmi Note 9 Pro in action, you know what this one can do as well. Now let's talk about the benchmarks and see what we can achieve here. So here we go. We have here Antutu 8, and here we achieved the score, which is basically 290k points. This means we surpassed the Moto G5G. At the same time, we beat the OnePlus Nord N10 5G and the Nokia 8.3 5G, which is quite pricier than this device. We're still below the Redmi Note 8 Pro and its powerful Helio CPU, and below the Kirin 810 of the Huawei P40 Lite. Now, a more relevant test would be the Geekbench 5 in a multi-core subtest, 1799 points, above Redmi Note 9 Pro sharing the same CPU, and also above the Oppo Reno 4 Pro 5G, which is a bit of a powerhouse CPU wise, not bad. At the same time below the Xiaomi Mi 10 Lite 5G and the Moto G 5G. Gamers beware, this is the 3D Mark Slingshot Extreme ES 3.1 and we got 2688 points. This places us above a gaming phone like the, let's see here. It actually places us above the Redmi Note 9 Pro for starters, the Moto G9 Plus and the Galaxy A71. An interesting fact is that we beat the successor of the phone, the Realme 8 Pro. I confused it with the Redmi 8 Pro before, and that's the pause. Anyway, it's a pretty solid result, but it's inferior to the Poco X3 NFC, the Moto G5G and the Huawei P40 Lite again. In general, I would say the performance is quite okay. I feel that it's beating the Snapdragon 730 series and it can sometimes compete with the Snapdragon 765G. Sometimes, not in all the tests. What's for certain is that you won't experience lag here. When it comes to the temperature, let's see what we were able to achieve here. Okay, so temperature in benchmarks is 32.4 degrees Celsius, which is pretty cool, doesn't overheat, and temperature in games is 32.2 degrees Celsius, which means once again there's no overheating. Now, as far as the battery is concerned, we have a 4500 lithium polymer unit with 65 watt charging via USB-C port here. It's a pretty impressive charging. On paper, we're promised to reach 50% in just 12 minutes and a full charge in 34 minutes. Now, before we get to that, let's see what this device delivers when it comes to the video playback time. So it's an impressive 19 hours and 18 minutes, almost cracking top 20. Actually, not bad at all. Now, with this pretty impressive value, we surpassed several high-profile phones, including the recently launched Moto G30 and also the LG Velvet, as well as the Galaxy S10 Lite and the OnePlus Nord, plus the Moto G5G. We stayed below the Xperia 10 Mark II, the Galaxy A31 and the Moto G9 Power, but that's a battery phone, so it was to be expected. Continuous usage is also not half bad, with 14 hours and 18 minutes, just above the Asus ROG Phone 2, also above the Oppo A72, but that's just a 1 minute difference. So aside from this 1 minute, we surpassed the Xiaomi Mi 10T, also the Galaxy A71 and the Galaxy A41, which are high-profile Samsung phones. At the same time, we scored below the Poco X3 NFC and the Xiaomi Mi 10 Lite 5G and the Xperia 10 Mark II, which have some extra minutes or hours above it. The charging is superb. After merely 34 minutes, you're all set, you're all done. The full charge is here. And after 15 minutes, you're at 59%, which is an amazing feature. You're basically getting around 7-8 hours of work done with 15 minutes of charge. That's fantastic if you ask me. There are also battery saver features, not that you're going to need them because the device is definitely a powerhouse in this field. And also it has stereo speakers, so there's one at the bottom and there's the one at the top offering you an acoustic experience with stereophony. We have here an audio jack, just in case you're wondering, and the promise of 24-bit acoustics, but there's more. We have a Dolby Atmos option here, and the Dolby Atmos can be set to a few options, so let's look it up. This is it. You can set it to smart, movie, gaming or music. I'm going to leave it to smart, and I think it's time to listen to a tune or two. Okay, so a bunch of conclusions. What you have here is a pretty loud sound. The device vibrates quite a bit, and I feel that it vibrates too much. The bass is a bit messy, not much bass happening here. It's loud but can also get a bit distorted at top volume. The high notes are okay, and the stereo is real. You can really feel the two speakers working together. So basically good highs, good voice. The bass feels just a tad messy, and distortion at top volume. We also did some usual measurements here with the volume power, which we measured here. So at the bottom of the phone we achieved 93.2 decibels with an acoustic sample test, and at the top of the phone 82.3 decibels. It's a 10 decibel difference, which is quite big, but the bottom value is actually impressive because it's placed on the 10th spot all time, beating many phones like the Poco X3 NFC, Huawei P40 Lite 5G, and the Oppo Reno 4 Pro 5G. There are louder phones still, actually 9 of them. Among them there's Moto G 5G Plus and the Redmi Note 9T. The gaming also checks out with 101 decibels. This is superior to the Samsung Galaxy A71 and OnePlus Nord, but inferior to the Galaxy A31 and the Vivo Y20s. We're done with the speakers on board of this device. I think it's time to discuss the camera. In this punch hole here, we have a 32 megapixel shooter in a punch hole, which is something you've been seeing often nowadays on Galaxy A phones and Oppo Reno phones as far as the selfie camera resolution goes. It has Full HD video, and if you go to the back side, we have a pretty discreet quad camera. This is the LED flash, and here there's a promise of a 64 megapixel AI camera. So the main shooter is a 64 megapixel one, of course, f1.8 aperture, phase detection autofocus. Then we have the 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, then a 2 megapixel macro and a 2 megapixel bokeh camera, plus the LED flash here. There is good news, there's 4K video capture, and there's gyroscope aided electronic image stabilization. The camera interface provides you with special AI features like AI dazzle, which makes the colors pop. We have the ultra macro, the text, the portrait, there's bokeh video, there's ultra steady, and quite a few other features which you usually see on mid-range Oppo phones. As you know, Realme is a spin-off from Oppo. Okay, so let's go to the gallery. We have here quite a few pictures. 198. I'm going to start with those taken during the day. So let's take them from here. Okay, so first things first, it was a pretty cloudy day, late February, and the weather was a bit mixed. At some point we even got some sun. I think that the images are quite clear here, especially with the main camera. This is a regular shot and this is the ultra wide shot, where the details will definitely fade because you're using only 8 megapixels. Now, the colors were spot on, and I was actually shocked to see that even though we're lacking a telephoto camera, the zoom is actually solid. Of course, digital zoom. Okay, so these aren't bad colors, neither with the ultra wide and with the main camera. So an all-around phone, an all-around good color calibration, I would say. Nice reds, particularly. The reds are the ones that stand out the most. And the zoom once again is great at 3x or even 5x, and the close-ups aren't half bad. You don't have to pull off several attempts to create a proper macro or close-up. You'll get it right the first time. Okay, and even more colors here. A pretty decent yellow. Once again, if the shots appear darker, it's because of the cloudy day, but in general the camera caught enough lights and very nice colors and textures of all of these objects. Nice reds again, some greens, blues, and so much more. Keep in mind that the ultra-wide camera doesn't mess up the colors as it used to happen back in the day when the ultra-wide cameras were just getting started. Okay, so let's go further here. This is a test of the focus, and I actually think it's a portrait or bokeh as it blurs the background a little bit. We change the subject here. This is Big Bird from Muppets, if I remember correctly, and this should definitely be a bokeh here somewhere to highlight that thing. So once again, a pretty solid level of zoom for these birds. And here we are with the selfies. They feel a bit washed out, but there's definitely quite a few details here and texture. The weather makes them feel a bit too white. The face has enough expression, and there's a lot of detail here. We can actually see the pores all around and the threads of hair, and the clothes have a pretty solid texture. So As far as the selfies are concerned, I'm happy with what you achieved here. Perhaps happier than the Oppo Reno 3 Pro 5G from last year, if you remember it. So let's see what else we have. Okay, once again solid colors, and I actually have a very nice shot of two ducks with quite a level of zoom. This has got to be one of the best digital zooms I've seen lately. I used to highlight that on the Huawei P40 Lite and the P40 Lite 5G, and even the P30 Lite had decent digital zoom. Actually, this one surpasses them in quite the way. Okay, even more colors here. So in general, keep in mind that the colors and the focus were spot on. You can take nice macros, and the ultra wide shots are good, but at the same time, you may find yourself with less details. This has got to be one of those bokeh I promised you. It looks decent, I've seen better, but after all, this is not a flagship. And even more selfies towards the end. Excuse the eyes, I was probably talking to someone or moving around. Anyways, you get the idea. We have plenty of them, and we're going to see them in the text review. And of course, if you want a portrait with a back camera, we have this statue here, which is pretty well cut from the background. All in all, for a phone that costs well below $300, I'm pretty impressed. I would even say it fights a pricier phone like the Oppo Reno 4 Pro 5G, even though that sounds like a blasphemy, or maybe the Nokia 8.3 5G. I'm not exaggerating, it actually delivers quite well. These are daytime shots. Let's go to the nighttime shots and take them in order, starting from here. Expectations are low. We once again are reminded of the price tag. And in spite of that, it's not a bad experience. I know they're a bit warm color-wise, and we don't capture a lot of light, but we have a pretty decent night mode. The lighting was okay in general, but if you're in a darker area, you may feel underwhelmed, and if you're using the night mode, you should be happy. Of course, the ultra-wide shots will look a bit off. They will make things a bit more red, and they will deform the light sources, so stay away from ultra-wide. Even the zoom was fine yet again, like it happened during the day. So night mode and regular camera shots are quite fine. This is a darker shot, this is a brighter shot, so be advised, stay away from the ultra-wide, take normal camera shots, and be impressed by the night mode and the general clarity and quality of the pictures. I have to highlight again the fact that the colors are a bit warm for my taste, and we're getting so many details and such a good brightness here. You can actually see a plane or a star in the sky. It's not just a reflection, there's actually something on the night sky. Even more shots here. We have quite a few of them during the nighttime, and to be honest, quite a few of them are colored orange. So there's that. Pick the night mode and stick to it, and you'll be happy with the results. Okay, and now I think it's time to discuss the video capture. So it's time to watch the videos we have captured with this phone's camera. We have 9 videos here, and let's take them one by one. So this is stabilization test number 1. You can check it out here. And I know it may appear okay on this small screen, but if you're watching it on a larger display, you'll notice that there's a bit of trepidation around the floor area and the side details. Let's actually make this fit the screen a bit better. And the colors feel a bit washed out. That usually happens on Full HD. They look a bit better when it comes to 4K. Okay, so let's go to another test. This is the focus test. Focus on the foreground and focus on the background, which happens in a pretty effective manner, as you can see here, switching from one frame to the other without a problem. So we have 2 tests so far, and this is our first clip we actually shot. The colors are very bright. I actually feel the need to decrease the brightness here, and this is also apparent on a larger screen. This video has a pretty decent exposure change, but in most of the videos the exposure change was violent when panning from a darker area to a lighter area, or vice versa. So you should probably keep that in mind. The zoom was also not very impressive, but I found the colors to be quite okay, especially the blues and the reds, although the reds were just a little bit too vivid for my taste. It was a pretty cloudy day with some sun in the cloud patches, so that may affect our exposure and colors. Selfie video is this one, and I'm actually pretty impressed by it, not bad. I know the background is very white, too white, but the face is pretty expressive. We have quite a few details. The microphone has a weird sound. It sounds like it has a special metallic background around it. It's a very weird sound, and I've heard it before whenever human voices are captured by the microphone, and that's kind of weird. But the image for the selfie capture is actually not bad. We have an extra stabilization test. The first one was without the special stabilization mode activated, and this is with the stabilization mode. I actually walked around in a zigzag pattern to properly test the stabilization, and while it may appear okay, there is a bit of trepidation around the floor area, so I have seen better, but not in this segment, so I would say it's passable for the price range. And that's about it during the daytime. If it weren't for the exposure and the way it changes when you're panning, I would be happy with the results. I maybe, just maybe, expected more from the stabilization. It's been hyped just a little bit. This is the low light video, the nighttime clip, and frankly speaking, it's actually not bad. For a nighttime clip and the price you're paying, this is actually not that bad. There's a bit of noise here and there, but the colors are quite okay. Some small reflections may appear, and this area is a bit orange. But overall, 70% of the video can easily be posted online without having any shame about it. And even the stabilization is decent during the nighttime. Not that bad. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell about the camera. And I think it's time to discuss things like the connectivity. So this is obviously a dual SIM phone with 4G, and aside from that, it's got Wi-Fi dual band, it's got your Bluetooth 5.1, GPS, AGPS, GLONASS, BDS, and there should also be NFC here for payments. There's an USB-C 2.0 port at the bottom, there's an audio jack, and the calls were pretty loud and clear. Now, if you want to see other details, we got a speed test here, and here are the results we achieved. We've performed quite a few tests. On 4G, we got up to 120 megapsecond in downloads, as you can see here, and 66.6 megapsecond in uploads. That's 4G. On Wi-Fi, 254 megapsecond in downloads here, and 331 megapsecond uploads. Quite impressive here. And as far as the software is concerned, you may have deduced it's Android 10 with a layer on top. That layer is called Realme UI 1.0. It leaves the interface in a pretty stock manner, doesn't add too much to it, so let's see what we're getting here. First of all, the multitasking looks like this. It's a series of windows in a carousel setup. We also are able to trigger a split screen option. Swipe down and you're treated to the multitasking and notification area. You're treated to the notification and quick settings area. This is the quick settings area. You got your Realme Share, you got your Do Not Disturb, you can record the screen, useful for gamers and app developers, and you got your dark mode here. If you keep the screen pressed, you got your widgets, which are pretty much stock vanilla Android affair. Then there's the wallpaper, effects, and settings, which have to do with icons, gestures, drawer. You can opt for with or without the drawer, and you can also play with the adjustment and app animation, speed, screen layout, and a few other features. Okay, so let's see what else. For security, we have a combo of the face unlock, which is already in effect now, and a fingerprint scanner, which is embedded in the screen, but the face has already been detected. So maybe let's try to cover this up and just use the fingerprint scanner. I have to say that when they're working together, the unlock is very fast thanks to the face. The fingerprint scanner alone may feel a bit slow at times, and if you're aiming for 90-degree unlock, it may not be as accurate as it wanted to be. You can also get rid of those three buttons at the bottom and replace them with the usual swipes. If you want extras related to the software, they're going to be found here in the settings. You got your connectivity options, notifications, display, do not disturb, fingerprint, face, and password. Those are your security areas. Convenience tools, like waking wheel assistant with the power button, navigation buttons, and a smart sidebar. There's privacy, location, security, digital well-being and parental control, and additional settings like the process manager, keyboard and input method, and so much more. App management is done from here, and here we have the app cloner to create two instances of the same app. There's a game space for gamers, which comes in handy here, and we can also boost gaming performance if you want to, and better organized games, and there's a split screen option. Now, aside from all of these, let's see if we forgot anything. The apps, the pre-installed apps. So one of the most interesting ones is the game space. You can see here the battery life, the signal strength, brightness lock. You can automatically adjust the resolution, and there should also be a profile for each game. Okay, and you got the settings here, manage your games. And let's see what happens if I tap on this one. I can go straight to the game, and from what I know, you can also allocate extra resources to them. Let's see if you can do that. If you press here we go. That's what I was looking for. You can set it to competition, balanced or low power mode to trigger the proper resource allocation. Now, aside from this aspect, I think we've covered everything. There aren't many pre-installed apps, so there isn't any bloatware, so that's nice. We've got Google Assistant, Calculator, Calendar, there's a Compass, there's Facebook, Duo, Drive, File Manager, Files, there's Keep, Google Lens, Maps, there's Realme's Music Player and Video Player, and the most useful one is the Phone Manager with privacy and permissions, payment protection, and component check, plus one-touch optimization. And I think we reached the verdict of the phone. I almost said the game. And as I'm going to give you the verdict, I'm also going to be playing Crash Bandicoot, the one launched on mobile recently by King. Now, on the pro side of the phone, we got the fact that it's comfy, it's got a bright screen, a pretty good CPU, and at the same time, I would say a pretty fast charging. And I should probably mention the battery life, which is quite solid. Okay, and aside from the battery life, the speakers are quite loud. We have a quite good camera here. I'm talking especially about the colors and the overall package. I should probably also mention that the selfies were quite nice. That's how I perceive them in expressiveness and so forth. Digital zoom was actually pretty mind-blowing, above expectations. Close-ups were fine. We have an audio jack, we have a microSD, so those are some welcome extras. And I think we've covered everything from the pro area, and I would say that the videos are also fine considering the price you're paying. Those are the pros. Now, on the cons, I have to say that the backside draws some fingerprints. The volume can be a bit annoying at maximum levels, so you may be bothered by the sound it makes at the top volume of the speaker. And the bass feels a bit messy, and stabilization was a bit below my expectations. Somehow I have hyped it in my mind. There's also the fact that we don't have Android 11 yet, and some people may have been expecting Android 11 to already be here. That's about it. And I've seen faster connectivity, if I'm really being honest. So in a nutshell, this phone, with all that it offers and all that it packs, should be fine if you're a video buff. You got a very solid screen, you got a pretty solid set of stereo speakers, and fast charging. So you're going to be gaming on this phone, you're going to be watching videos, and you're going to be listening to music. It's pretty much a media phone, which can produce good selfies, and it obviously rivals the Redmi Note 9 Pro from Xiaomi because it has the exact same CPU. I'd actually go with this one or search a phone with a similar price tag and maybe a higher refresh rate, if and only if you actually need that. Okay, so I keep playing this game here, and that's about it. So keep in mind, it feels like a media phone, which is pretty light, slim, and comfy. And the screen, the speakers, and the camera make a pretty good team. But let's not also forget the battery, which is pretty impressive, especially through the fast charging. Hopefully, it will get Android 11 soon. This is from gsno.com. Bye-bye.